wonderful morning to you out there. You're welcome to Newspaper Review on Aloore Radio. We are transmitting from GSM Studio at the Ministry of Information and Orientation, Secretariat Agodi, Ibadan. My name is Olukemi Omotosho. I have with me two Nigerian dailies, The Nation and The Punch newspaper. Let me go to the front page of The Nation newspaper. It says, federal government votes 100 billion naira for high-capacity CNG buses, with the rider that says Labour suspends strike after signing agreement with government. That is a good one. And also I have this one that says 100,000 euro bribe trial. UK court slams tough bail terms on Desiani. EFCC to press on with her extradition. I have a picture of the former minister. And I have one that says Tinubu graduated from CSU in 1979, says school. Varsity releases documents to Atiku. Of course, that can be found on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And I have this sad one, 18 burns to death in Rivers illegal refinery fire. That is coming from page 5. Obaseki inaugurates 34 SSAs, 152 SAs. That story can be found on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. And I have this on page 5. Tribunal sacks Nasarawa Governor Fubara Fintiri triumph. And on page 4, ECA withdraws states to get 1 trillion refund. NAF airstrike kills terrorists in Borno. That story can be found on page 28 of the Nation newspaper. And I have Sano 6.25% pay rise. That, of course, is coming from page 3 of the Nation newspaper. Let me quickly go to the front page of the Punch newspaper for news headlines. 6 months allowance. Federal government to spend, 315 billion naira. Labour suspends strike for 30 days. And the rider says Labour demands wage award for states, local government, private sector workers. 1.5 million federal workers to benefit from government provisional wage award. That story can be found on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And I have another story that says bribe-taking policeman return to Lagos road, extorts 25,000 naira from driver. That troublesome story can be found on page 4 of the Punch newspaper. And I have 33 fear killed in illegal Rivers refinery explosion. The story can be found on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. And still on bribery, UK court restricts Desiani's movement. EFCC begins extradition. The story can be found on page 8. And still on the front page of the Punch newspaper, marketers disagree with Tinubu tax advisor on refineries sale. That is coming from Oyedele on page 2. And Chicago Varsity releases Tinubu's record to Atiku. The story can be found on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. And with that, we'll go on a short break. To be back for details, please stay tuned with us. Thank you.
Let us take you on a journey across continents as we bring you latest news, captivating stories, and diverse perspectives from around the globe. From breaking news headlines to fascinating features, discover the stories that shapes our society and the voices that demand to be heard. It's Newspaper Review on Aloore Radio.
àṣà ò gbọ́dọ̀ wọlé gbẹ́yẹlé àṣà ò gbọ́dọ̀.
ẹ ǹlẹ́ bàbá àdìo ẹ wo aṣọ ọ̀gbẹ́yẹlé nìkan mọ́ nísìn ẹlẹ́yẹlé gan-an làṣà ń gbé ọ̀rọ̀ ojú òní ìmọ̀ wa rí yín fún. ṣé ẹ rí i nígbà tí ìjọba kọ̀ tí ó sọ̀rọ̀ láwọn ọ̀dọ́ ti ṣaṣara bàgbó pé kí gbogbo àwọn oníṣẹ́ bí ó kù lágbègbè wa ni wọ́n bá níjọba sọ pé kámórí wá ká fọrùn lẹ̀.
tá ń sọ bẹ́ẹ̀. àdìo ìwọ náà sì tún pẹ̀lú ọ̀bọ jáwúra mi bí wọ́n mọ̀ pé nǹkan tíjọba ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ń sọ ni pé a lè fi nǹkan tó kù díẹ̀ káàtó ṣàtúnṣe nǹkan tí ò dáa ó dáa àdìo láti gbẹ̀ tí wàá déhùn ṣé eégún kan ti wá yọrẹ sí babaláwo yín bí.
rárá o bàbá.
ní nǹkan tó jẹ́ pé kẹ́yìn ọ̀dọ́ tó fọn níjọba ti yàwó tùlù fún ẹ̀ṣọ́ aláàbò àmọ̀tẹ́kùn pé kí wọ́n fi tọ̀gbẹ́ tààlà láti lé gbogbo àwọn ẹni ibi jáde ní kọ̀lọ̀fín wọn bẹ́ẹ̀ ló ṣètò ọlọ́pàá scrodom ibi fáàbò gbogbo wa nípìnlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ náà ni ṣèjọba tó wá ṣèyún ní òwà rẹ̀ nìràn lẹ́rù ni ó tún mọ́ ọkọ̀ fẹ́ bí.
ọ̀rọ̀ yín yé mi bàbá àmọ́ ọ̀tọ̀ ní táwọn èèyàn mọ̀ ń wíìkì.
àwọn ará bíi ti tòṣèlú bọ̀ ọ́nù nígbà àtàkùté wọn mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta òré ó rí wọn lórí ẹ̀rọ ayélujára táwọn ti ròyìn òfegè ní ibi láti sọ̀jọba gómìnà Ṣèyí Mákindé ní súná bú ni.
bàbá kí là á wàá ṣe ṣé ẹ mọ̀ pọ́rọ̀ ọ̀sọ́kùsọ bíi náà nú ẹ̀rùn ni.
ẹ̀yin ọ̀dọ́ tẹ́ ẹ nífẹ̀ẹ́ ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ dénú náà ni kẹ́ ẹ sọ fún gbogbo òlù pé orí ìpinnu àṣà ò gbọ́dọ̀ wọlé gbẹ́yẹlé níjọba ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ dúró lé.
ó ti yé mi bàbá mo sì ń lọ rèé fọn rere rẹ̀ náà nu. iléeṣẹ́ ètò ìròyìn àṣà ohun ìrìn àjò afẹ́ tìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ló ń kéde.
You're welcome back to Newspaper Review on Aloore Radio. You can like and share on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Aloore Radio. On YouTube it is Aloore Radio. And our website remains www.alooreradio.com. You can call in on 0903-985-3731. 0903-985-3731. The first story I'm going to take in details is from page 2 of the Punch newspaper. It says 6 months allowance. Federal government to spend 315 billion naira. Labour suspends strike for 30 days. The federal government may incur additional 315 billion naira in wage bill in the next 6 months for the newly introduced allowance for federal workers, findings by the Punch have shown. This came as organized labour agreed to suspend its proposed nationwide strike for 30 days following the signing of a memorandum of understanding with the federal government after a marathon meeting that ended around 11 p.m. on Tuesday. The resolution followed over 5 hours of deliberations between the federal government and Labour at the Chief of Staff Conference room of the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Announcing the outcome of the meeting to State House correspondents, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Simeon Lalong, said, and I quote, "The NLC and TUC are set to suspend for 30 days the planned indefinite nationwide strike scheduled to begin Tuesday, the 3rd of October 2023. Lalong said the memorandum shall be filed with the relevant courts of competent jurisdiction within 1 week as consent judgment by the federal government. However, the NLC president, Joe Ajaero, said the unions will revisit the agreement if the federal government failed to fulfill their demands. According to the agreement, the federal government grants a wage award of 35,000 naira only to all federal government workers beginning from the month of September, pending when a new national minimum wage is expected to have been signed into law. For more of that story of the Punch newspaper, 6 months allowance, federal government to spend 315 billion naira, Labour suspends strike for 30 days. And still on page 2, I have marketers disagree with Tinubu tax advisor on refineries. The chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, Taiwo Oyedele, has said Nigerians should pray that the country's refinery do not work. Oyedele, who spoke at the platform's Independence Anniversary event held in Lagos on Monday, said, should Nigeria refineries produce petroleum, inefficiencies in the management might make a litre of petrol the most expensive in the world. Nigerians will say if only our refineries were working, then we will be fine. Nothing can be further from the truth than that. In fact, Nigerians should come together and say, please make sure that our refineries don't work. We should sell them. That is coming from Oyedele. The National Assembly said, we have spent over 10 trillion naira maintaining our refineries even when they have not produced anything. Oyedele said during the event tagged Africa, Rising Continent, Nigeria's strategic role. If you are interested in that story, you can turn to page 2 of the Punch newspaper for details. Marketers disagree with Tinubu tax advisor on refinery. And of course, I quickly go to page 4 of the Punch newspaper. I have family of lady killed in Lagos apartment demands justice. The family of slain Fojero Ojite have asked police authorities to ensure that our killers are brought to book. The Punch Metro gathered that Fojero 31 was killed in her apartment in the Agility area of Ketu in Lagos on July 27, 2023. After allegedly slitting her throat, her assailants also set the apartment on fire. The smoke from the building alerted neighbors, who forced the door open and discovered her lifeless body on the floor with her hands burnt. If you are interested in that story, you can turn to pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. Family of lady killed in Lagos apartment demands justice, and I pray that justice will be served. Ondo NSCDC arrests 2 for trafficking girls to Libya. The Ondo State Command of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defence Corps on Monday said it has arrested 2 persons, Babatunde Oluwashola and Dada Fowowe, for their alleged involvement in human trafficking. The command's spokesman, Mr. Daniel Aidamembo, disclosed this in a statement made available to journalists in Ondo town. He said they were allegedly involved in recruiting 3 young girls to travel to Libya in April this year. If you are interested in that story, you can turn to the crime page, the metro page of the Punch newspaper, page 4. Ondo NSCDC arrests 2 for trafficking girls to Libya. And of course, I'll quickly go to page 6 of the Punch newspaper. I have Lagos orders accelerated work on revenue house. The Lagos state government on Monday ordered the contractor handling the Lagos Revenue House, formerly known as Elephant House, to extradite action on the project. The special adviser to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu on Works and Infrastructure, Mr. Adekunle Olayinka, who issued the order, expressed displeasure at the slow pace of work. According to a statement, Olayinka noted that the building located on Asibifi Road, Agidingbi, Ikeja, is an important project conceived by the state government to accommodate some important parastatals of the state within the secretariat vicinity. If you are interested in that story, you can turn to page 6 of the Punch newspaper. Lagos orders accelerated work on revenue house. And on page 7, Anambra extrajudicial killing victims can't rest in peace. IG panel reports enters coolers. The story says, no doubt since his assumption of office, the acting inspector general of police, Kayode Egbetokun, has carried out quite a number of reforms and measures, which to a large extent have instilled some level of discipline and sanity among the personnel on the police force. Members of the public, especially those who have suffered one form of police brutality or the other, are quite commending this effort, which is usually seen when there is a new man at the helms of affairs. The IGP's measures and efforts have also seen errant police officers who have exhibited one form of negative attitude or the other against members of the public and the country being disciplined and sanctioned. If you are interested in that write-up, you can turn to page 7, the panorama page of the Punch newspaper. Anambra extrajudicial killing victims can't rest in peace. IG panel reports enters coolers. And of course, coming from page 8, I have Bribery. UK court restricts the Zionist movement. EFCC begins extradition. A former minister of petroleum resources, Desiani Alison Madueke, on Monday appeared before the Westminster Magistrates Court in the United Kingdom over an alleged €100,000 bribe. The district judge, Michael Snow, granted Alison Madueke a €70,000 bail. Snow further imposed other terms on Alison Madueke, including all an 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew, an electric tag to be worn by her at all times, and a surety to be paid before she could leave the building. For more of that story, you can turn to page 8 of the Punch newspaper. Bribery. UK court restricts the Zionist movement. EFCC begins extradition. And of course, I have this story coming from page 21. 1,000 naira per litre diesel price unchanged despite VAT removal. That is coming from marketers. Oil marketers on Monday said the cost of automotive gas oil, popularly called diesel, was still over 1,000 naira per litre despite the announcement of the federal government that it had removed value-added tax on the commodity. It was gathered that the cost of AGO was still between 990 naira and 1,100 per litre on Monday, though many filling stations lack the product as they blame this on the high price of diesel. If you are interested in that story, you can turn to page 21 of the Punch newspaper. And let me quickly go to the Nation newspaper. I have this one coming from the front page. It says federal government votes 100 billion naira for high capacity CNG buses. A huge transport boost to alleviate the petrol subsidy pain was unveiled last night. It's a major highlight in the agreement reached between the federal government and the Labour, which effectively altered the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) and Trade Union Congress (TUC) strike plan. The decision on transportation also include provision of 55,000 CNG conversion kits to kickstart an auto gas conversion program, pending the completion of ongoing work on the site of the Heart CNG station nationwide. The government plans to roll out next month with pilots across 10 campuses nationwide. The agreements were reached at the rescheduled parley at the State House in Abuja last night. The full agreements were contained in a memorandum of understanding signed by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Simeon Bako Lalong, Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Mrs. Nkiru Onyecha. And if you are interested in that story, you can turn to the front page and page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Federal government votes 100 billion naira for high capacity CNG buses. And of course, I will quickly go to page 3 of the Nation newspaper. It says federal government begins verification of National Social Register in Lagos. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, has kick-started the verification of the National Social Register (NSR) in Lagos State. Communities where the exercise was carried out includes Oko, Agbon, Adogbo, Migewe, Makoko, Shogunro, and Apollo. The verification, which started simultaneously across the country in line with President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, is expected to last 3 weeks. Edu promised to get Nigerians a social register with integrity. The minister, who spoke after she carried out door-to-door verification of the register, said the federal government was ready to put money into the hands of Nigerians to assist them in their businesses, education of their children, livelihood, and job creation. If you are interested in that story, you can turn to page 3 of the Nation newspaper. Federal government begins verification of National Social Register in Lagos. And of course, I have this one coming from Esano urges federal government, state varsities to implement 25% salary increase. The Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SSANO, has urged federal and state universities to implement the newly approved 25% and 30% salary increment for junior workers and professors. The university workers also called for the payment of the arrears without further delay. SANO said the demand at its 45th regular National Executive Council NEC meeting at the University of Maiduguri in Borno State. In a circular dated September 21, 2023, issued on the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation to Polytechnics and Colleges of Education, the Auditor General said the implementation was approved by the Presidential Committee on Salaries at the 13th meeting. The circular followed a similar letter from the chairman of the National Council of the National Salary, Income and Wages Commission, NSIWC, dated September 14, 2023. In a communique by its national president, SANO urged the federal government to forward the letter to the National Universities Commission, NUC, for implementation. If you are interested in that story, you can turn to page 3 of the Nation newspaper. SANO urges federal state varsities to implement 25% salary increase. And I will go to page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Tinubu graduated from CSU in 1979, says school. The Chicago State University, CSU, has responded to the request by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar in line with an erroneous United States court order in its compliance with the September 30 judgment by Justice Nancy Maldonado of the North District of Illinois Court. The CSU insisted that it does not keep copies of diploma certificates issued to students. Atiku had by his application sought for 4 categories of documents from the CSU. The school also confirmed that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu graduated in 1979. The CSU said Tinubu graduated in 1979 with a bachelor's degree in business administration. If you're interested in that story, you can turn to page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Tinubu graduated from CSU in 1979, says school. And I have this one, the last story I'm going to take from page 5 of the Nation newspaper. 18 burns to death in Rivers illegal refinery fire. No fewer than 18 persons have been burned to death by fire that engulfed an illegal oil refinery site at Iba, a Moha local government area of Rivers State. 25 others at the scene were injured when the inferno broke out Sunday night. An amateur video of the fire showed remains of children, men, and women littering the scene. The commandant of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NCSDC, Basil Wagbese, and Emoa local government area chairman Chidi Lloyd confirmed the tragedy. Igwaeze said death toll of 18, but a community source said it was 33. The commandant said a pregnant woman, the son of the illegal refinery operator, and an about-to-wed lady were among those burned to ashes. He said while the owner of the refinery, John Bodo, sustained severe injury, his son Uche, who graduated recently from a tertiary institution, died at the spot. That is a very sad one. If you are interested in that story, you can turn to page 5 of the Nation newspaper. 18 burns to death in Rivers illegal fire illegal refinery fire. And with that, we've come to the end of today's newspaper review on Aloore Radio. We are transmitting from GSM Studio at the Ministry of Information and Orientation, Secretariat Agodi, Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria. You can like and share on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Aloore Radio. On YouTube, it is at Aloore Radio, and our website remains www.alooreradio.com. Of course, you can call in on 09039853731, 09039853731. I am Olukemi Omotosho. Thanks for listening, and do have a wonderful day.